Right, we talked about a lot of building, a lot of testing, a lot of gnarliness between you two. Could be argued that maybe your gnarliest thing that you've created is, of course, Hardline and the Hardline series. Would you agree? Up there?
Up there.
I'd agree.
Up there with ideas that maybe have got a little bit out of control, perhaps?
It's got itself out of control.
As a lot of Athy's ideas do. Out of control.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a morph as well. It's definitely taken on a life of its own now. It's absolutely insane the following it has. Like, how many people watch it
Yeah.
is mad.
Yeah.
That's one that you've created one of the biggest events on the mountain biking calendar.
I think it's just raw.
Yeah.
Like, if I could like bring it back to one thing, it's like it's just raw mountain biking.
Was that like your first brief?
Must be raw.
It was a Dan Atherton project. There was no brief.
Well, what do you think you were trying to make? And
Yeah,
has
that's a
it-
good question.
you know?
Man. That's really good. Yeah. Yeah, where did it spawn?
hard line.
What did it come from? Yeah.
We were trying to persuade Red Bull to do it for a while. And then eventually I got bored and just built it anyway.
They didn't like the idea to start
They
with.
did not. They weren't that into it to start with.
I'd love to know what your like presentation was, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No,
Probably
don't-
lacking a bit on detail.
approximately what was it?
It was probably Athy up the hill midwinter with a couple of the Red Bull guys pointing at bits of track that, you know, we could take off there, down there. It was all quite vague. It was all
very vague.
It was quite you know, as we spoke about before, just kind of meandering into something, you know, turning it into this idea, into this idea. It wasn't a hard, sharp start.
You weren't building a World Cup track, though.
No. And in the end, we got bored of waiting and just paid for it ourselves and built it. And then Red Bull were like, okay, it's a go. But then at that point, we had 6 weeks till the event, the first year. And so we were like, well, we have actually built the course because we kind of were hoping you'd say yes. And then from there, it just took on a life of its own. And like Red Bull was so supportive from like day one of them saying yes. And it's that support has like just grown and grown and grown. And I'm always like, okay, is it getting to the end of its life? And it just seems to like have like a whole new surge. And like every year, Tasmania, because it's the first event of the year, it gets so much attention. You know, it's the first thing that happens in the mountain bike calendar in the year. And so like the coverage is insane. Like,
But what's cool is that, you know, it's changed and the plan changed and there was never like but the very basic idea and the very base at the like, you know, at the simplest level of just trying to make the most difficult course we can, you know, that was in that first initial, you know, thought process. And that's still there. That's the one thing that's kind of stayed consistent all the way through to even now, you know.
And when Red Bull came to us initially and said, think of an idea for an event, as they do with all their athletes, we were thinking about all this crazy stuff, you know, all these wacky ideas. And in the end, it was just a really simple idea. It's just a gnarly downhill race. And it's so easy for people to understand. There's no judging, there's no points, you don't really need to get your head around anything. It's just the fastest man to the bottom.
Yeah.
Did you struggle to get riders to do the first one or
Not the first one,
no?
the second one. And the third.
Yeah. Purely through natural selection, there was no one left.
Yeah. One year we nearly cancelled because we started off with like 27 riders and we had like 10 left
Yeah.
by final.
I think the first year we built it and then everyone turned up and we started, there was just so many crashes.
Yeah.
And everything was filmed and everything was broadcast and you know, shown. And we almost shot ourselves in the foot a little bit. We probably,
Right.
you know,
Too much.
it was too much. And The second year, it was in this awkward phase of like, you know, no one really knew what the event was. There was no reason to do it because it wasn't really getting any coverage. But there was just a lot of footage out of people crashing.
Yeah.
So people were a bit like, well, why would we do it?
But it always had this like hardcore following, didn't it? Of like riders who loved it, you know, like proper riders who like wanted to like push themselves and weren't too bothered about coverage or like getting injured or, you know. So like from day one, I think it's always had like a bit of a cult following. Yeah.
Which is the reason it's probably turned into what it has now. You know?
Yeah. How do you find the line? I mean, I'm going to speak like a fanboy here, but you're one of the best. I'm pointing at Dan Atherton right now. You're one of the best at riding the most horrific shit. You've got a real talent for like technical riding. You can sort of see it, and probably that was reflected in some of the first hardlines. It was like you had to be really good, really on it, real small margin for error. How do you now do it where you're still pushing it, but you're getting rid of that like risk that you had in the first editions?
Well, I think that build has always come across from inspiration from other sports. So like day one hardline, the lips were steep, you know, like, and that's come from BMX, and the speed was high, and that's come from motorbikes. And like, I think that kind of mentality is still there. It's still like it still tries to be a real riders event. You know, you want not racers to do well so much as riders to do well, and that's my kind of mentality for it.
I feel like it's been that natural. It's almost talk about a bike park and everything. It's like that natural progression. But did you expect it to be where it is now? Like, was there a vision of more events and
no way
more coverage?
No, I think like the bike park and like people having their own relationship with bike parks, I think hardline is the same. People have this like insanely passionate relationship with hardline, and the biggest thing for me was how much the pros like took it upon themselves and were like, they completely bought into it, and they were like coming to me with like, let's have a hardline in Canada, let's have a hardline in France, let's have a hardline in Tasmania, let's have a hardline. Like everyone was coming saying that they wanted to like showcase where they'd grown up riding, you know, like, because everyone has their favorite spot and their most gnarly place that they ride and train, and like everyone was just so passionate about it, which I was blown away at.
I think when Athy comes up with a concept and like comes up with an idea for something, it's always, you know, it has to be that core idea that he has to love. You know, there's never you know, it could be this, you know, this thing could get loads of attention in the end, or it could get loads of media, or could get loads of coverage. You know, he has to, like hardline, or, you know, like the bike park, you know, even the bike company, that raw initial kind of soul of it has to be something that Athy loves and is close to his heart, and then everything else builds around that, you know. And if it grows into something big, and if it turns into something that's getting a lot of attention, then that's great, but that's never the motivating factor at the start, you know.
Yeah.
Like hardline's turned into quite a big beast now, but the reason it's done so well and has had our attention for so long is because that core of it is still there, you know, building the most difficult track we can to really test the riders, and that won't change really.
I guess that's a perfect segue then into building the most difficult track. So
Okay. Hey man, what an episode that was. You did amazing in it.
And so did you.
You shone like a star.
You shone like a moon.
Can we also put something up here that you can click on for the next episode?
How about we put a subscribe up there in the middle?
Yeah,
We're going to put a video we think that our lovely companionship will love on your face.
On my face?
Yeah.
And
so
on can't see me now.
Gone. And on my face, another video that we think people will love. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please hit like and subscribe. You guys are the best.
Peace and love.